Me and my husband have been married for 3 wonderful years, together for 8. I love this man with everything I have. He is the love of my life and what can only be described as the perfect man, not just a husband. I see how other women look at him. Waiters have left their phone numbers on checks. I have even had to cut friends out of my life because they tried to steal him from me. One of my former friends has even gone as far as to wait for him naked on our bed because he has shut down all of her advances. Not to stroke my own ego, but this man is perfect in any and every situation. I have never seen him break or become disheartened by anything. He stands his ground and wholeheartedly stands by his morals and values. One of the many reasons I love him. The problem I'm facing. My husband and his side of the family have had a horrendous year. They are a very close group of people, and their family gatherings are a sight to behold. They are as close as a family can be. The whole family even lives within an hour of each other. For some context, I will try to list everything that has happened in the last year in order. His grandmother and grandfather died 3 months apart. 2 of his aunts and 1 uncle died in a car accident. 1 of his sisters died in a car accident, and the other was badly injured in that same car accident. His mother was diagnosed with cancer and died 4 months later. A couple of other things happened as well, but these are the biggest. Through all of this, he was the rock for everyone. I didn't see him cry or show any emotions during arrangements or the funerals themselves. His niece and nephew asked about their parents, and he had to tell them what happened, again showing no emotions. Just regarding the people he has lost over the last year, he was very close to them, with multiple phone calls a week and visiting whenever he could. The same from their side, so it wasn't just one-sided. During this time, I got a bit scared of my husband. How can he lose so many people that have been important to him and not feel or show any emotions? My husband continued as he always has. He went to work and hasn't taken time off. He is doing his part around the house. His attention towards me hasn't shifted or changed. He hasn't taken anything out on me. He still talks to me as he normally does. We still go out on dates. He hasn't started to drink more. He still jokes around the house. No signs of depression or anything. To sum it up, he is exactly as he has always been. I have asked him so many times if he is all right and to talk to me, but he says everything is fine and he can't change what has happened, so there's no need to let that influence our lives. I have let him know multiple times that whatever he needs, I will be there in a heartbeat, even if he just wants to talk. 2 nights ago, I woke up around 2 a.m. I don't know why I woke up, but when I did, my husband wasn't next to me. I stayed in bed and waited for my husband, as I thought he might have gone to the bathroom or something. 10 minutes passed and I decided to go and see what he was up to. He wasn't in our bathroom, living room, or in the kitchen, and I honestly got a bit scared as I didn't know where my husband was. I went back to my room to get my phone, but as I passed the guest room, I heard something that sounded like someone crying. I went into the room and saw my husband in the guest bathroom, just crying, more like sobbing. He didn't see me as the bathroom door was partially closed. I wanted to go in and comfort him, but as I touched the door to open it, my husband stood up, leaned over the sink, and splashed water on his face. He then looked at himself in the mirror and said, "It's not time to break, you piece of shoot. Everyone needs you. Get yourself under control." I stood in shock for a couple of seconds and decided to leave the room as quickly as possible, with tears in my eyes. I suddenly realized my husband has barely been able to keep it together himself, and he has only been able to do so for the sake of others. I don't know if my husband came back to bed that night, as I cried myself to sleep, not being able to help him and not even knowing where to start. In the morning when I woke up, I found my husband in the kitchen cooking breakfast for us, and being as happy as he always has been. He even grabbed me and started to spin me around as if we had been dancing. My husband is the oldest among all the children in the family, and he has always taken responsibility for everyone else. I don't want to push him on this, but I also really want to help him. I don't want him to break. I don't want him to explode. If it becomes too much, I already know it's too much. I know I won't be able to handle it, but I also know I'm not him. What can I do to help him? or do I wait until he comes to me? Edit. I went off the rails with my second paragraph describing my husband. I have read a lot of posts on Reddit and tried to avoid all the unnecessary questions like, do you even love your husband? Are you overbearing? Are you a jealous wife? Why so little detail about your husband? And I went too far with that. I do apologize for that, as the second paragraph really has nothing to do with my question or anything. It's just me oversharing regarding my husband. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Honestly, as a man, here's what I would recommend. Go up to him when he is not paying attention. Come up behind him and hug him. Let him feel your love in that hug. Just softly tell him everything you told us. He is your rock, your happiness, your everything, and you always have and will always be there no matter what. He is strong and believe in him always. Just that little bit, as a man, will sing volumes into his soul, even if he doesn't react. Comment 2. The best thing is to not force anything on him, but to let him know how you feel. Just let him know that it doesn't change the way you look at him, that you support him no matter what. At least if he knows how you feel, he might open up. How you go about it is up to you. You know him best. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and advice on my last post. It's been a rough couple of weeks, and I've got quite the update for you all. After I saw my husband breaking down that night, I was torn about what to do. I wanted to respect his space, but I also couldn't stand the thought of him suffering alone. The next day, I decided to reach out to his best friend Mike, who's known him since they were kids. Mike was shocked to hear about my husband's silent struggles because, like everyone else, he thought my husband was handling everything remarkably well. Mike and I talked for hours, and he shared stories from their childhood that I'd never heard before. He told me about the time my husband stood up to a bully in middle school, not with fists, but with words that left the bully speechless and never bothered them again. It was a side of my husband I hadn't seen, but it made me love him even more. A few days later, my husband came home from work to find Mike sitting in our living room. I could tell he was surprised, but he greeted his friend with a warm smile. They talked about everything but the family tragedies until Mike, with a seriousness I'd rarely seen from him, brought up the topic. He shared his concerns and told my husband that it was okay not to be okay. That conversation was the turning point. My husband broke down in front of us, and for the first time he let out all the pain he'd been holding in. It was heart-wrenching to watch, but it was also a relief to see him finally opening up. We spent the rest of the night talking, crying, and surprisingly, laughing as they reminisced about the good times with the family members we'd lost. The next week, my husband took time off work. We spent the days taking long walks, sometimes in silence, other times talking about everything under the sun. It was during one of these walks that he told me about his childhood dream of becoming a writer, something he'd given up on to take care of his family. I was stunned. I had no idea he had this passion. We decided together that it was time for him to pursue his dream. We compromised on him cutting back his hours at work to dedicate time to writing. He was hesitant at first, worried about the financial aspect, but I assured him we'd manage. I took on some freelance work to help support us, and seeing the spark in his eyes as he sat down to write every day made every sacrifice worth it. But just when things seemed to be looking up, we hit another bump. My husband's younger brother, who had been leaning on him heavily since their mother's passing, felt abandoned when my husband started focusing on his writing. He confronted us one evening, accusing my husband of being selfish and forgetting about the family. The argument that followed was intense. My husband's brother brought up every painful event from the past year, and for a moment I was afraid it would undo all the progress my husband had made. But then, my husband did something amazing. He stood his ground, not with anger, but with a calmness that left his brother speechless. He explained that taking care of himself didn't mean he loved his family any less, but he couldn't be their rock if he was crumbling inside. It took a while, but his brother finally understood. He even apologized and asked if he could read some of my husband's writing. Watching them bond over the stories my husband had penned was a beautiful moment I'll never forget. As for me, I've been doing my best to support my husband through all of this. I've learned that sometimes being there for someone means giving them the space to heal, and other times it means holding their hand through the storm. Our relationship has grown stronger, and I've seen sides of my husband that have only deepened my love for him. Husband insists I reschedule duct cleaning appointment because he wants me to be present and it's our daughter's nap time. Oh boy, he leaves and doesn't return. My husband and I are co-owners of our house. I work full-time and he is a stay-at-home dad taking care of our 2-year-old. Basically, whenever something breaks in the house or if any type of appointment needs to be made, it falls on me to make the call and schedule things. The only appointments I've seen him schedule are personal doctor's appointments for himself. So I scheduled our duct cleaning, which is badly needed, and I told him it would be next Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. He immediately asked if I would be there, and I replied, "No, of course not. I'll be working." Basically, he said I have to reschedule it because he wants me to be present for the duct cleaning, and that's also when our 2-year-old takes her nap. I honestly don't see why my presence should be required to just supervise some contractors while they clean our ducts. As for my daughter's nap, I wish I had thought of that, but I feel like we can still continue with the appointment. I huffed and said, "Fine, I'll reschedule it, and whenever anything breaks, don't worry, I'll schedule all of those too." It's just irritating that he can't even take the initiative to call the people and reschedule for us. He just rudely tells me I have to do it. Then he got up and left, and he hasn't come back. Should I go find him and try to apologize? Update 3. I want to tell you guys about my relationship. This is very personal, but I feel sharing more info about us will hopefully get people to stop calling me a victim of cradle robbing. I met him in the spring of 2015. We were in the same class together. We had never spoken directly, but one day I left the class in tears because I was about to bomb my A&P practical in just a few hours. He followed me and tried to ask me what was wrong. I couldn't say anything, but I distinctly remember looking into his blue eyes before running away to go attempt to study. I did fail my practical, and that's where my nursing career aspirations ended. The following day, he spoke to me about it, and I told him what happened. We went and got a smoothie and spoke for more than 4 hours. I felt an immediate mental connection with him, and I thought he was very handsome. A couple of weeks went by until he messaged me on Facebook. That's when our romance began. Unfortunately, it wasn't too much longer until I became ill. I have an inherited risk of bipolar disorder from my father. I slipped into a manic episode. My husband worked with my family to get me to the hospital where I was committed for more than a month. Most people have no idea what it really is like to fall into insanity. My husband helped, though, and didn't hold any judgment toward me for it. He was there even after I got out of the hospital, and while I recovered. It was in early spring of that year that he broke up with me and said I should see other men. He said I was too young and that I should try dating others. I think he suffered from depression also that contributed to him isolating himself from me. After the whole year went by, I dated 2 other men, and it was fun, but I wasn't in love with them. Then on December 31st, I made the decision to go back. I looked up at the sky and I saw Venus right next to a crescent moon. It was snowing. I took off on my bike and just barely made it to his place. Then we were snowed in together for more than a week. That was when he asked me to move in with him. A year later, we were engaged, and then in December of 2020, we got married. It wasn't long after that we conceived our beautiful daughter. We've had many ups and downs, and we are in counseling. I recall us holding each other bawling when our cat was lost in 20-degree F weather, convinced that he was dead. We are absolutely in love, and I don't want to hear any more posts saying that we aren't, and that he has manipulated me. Update 2. For everyone condemning our relationship based on our age difference alone, can you please stop? Okay, I see that you would not date someone 10 years older than you. Great. I was almost 20 when we met, okay? Not a little baby. I find it highly offensive to be infantilized in this way. As for everyone scrutinizing my profile and reading every random post I've made in the last 5 years, like what kind of time do you have on your hands? Yeah, my mom is insane. My husband has some issues. So do I. Like, there is no person alive who doesn't have some shoot to work on. The difference between a good person and a jerk is their willingness to work on their issues. We are in counseling, and my husband has admitted his faults. As for this issue where I'm coordinating things like house repairs and appointments, that is going to change. Part of the issue is my willingness to take the lead on almost everything, so my husband is just used to me doing these things. Update. Thanks for all the advice, guys. I wasn't expecting that much. I do want to stick up for my husband, though. He's a very good man. I wouldn't have married him if that was not true. Yes, he does chores and housework. I do want to clarify, there absolutely was no molding or grooming with our relationship when we met at community college when I was 19. We got together and dated casually for about 8 months. We actually split up for almost a year, and I saw other men. That's what he said he wanted me to do. We ended up reuniting, though, on January 1st. We got snowed in together, and I was never happier. We've had our ups and downs over the years, but ultimately, we've always worked things out. I was wondering if I should apologize because I want us to be good with each other. He ended up coming back, and we've had an excellent evening. I figured I'll bring it up tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll come to an understanding. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. That's ridiculous. Stuff like home repair appointments are part of the usual role for stay-at-home parents/spouses. Does he do chores and housework while he's home? Comment 2. Did you ever wonder why a 30-year-old was dating someone barely legal and couldn't find someone his own age? Because stuff like this is why. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support and advice on my last post. It's been a busy week, and I've got some updates that I think you'll find pretty interesting. So, after my husband stormed off about the duct cleaning, he came back later that evening. We talked it out, and I thought we reached an understanding. He agreed to start taking on more responsibility with scheduling appointments, and I felt relieved. But, oh boy, was I in for a surprise. The next day, I got a call from the duct cleaning company. They told me someone had called to cancel the appointment. I was confused because I hadn't asked my husband to cancel it, just reschedule. When I confronted him, he admitted he canceled it because he didn't want to deal with it during our daughter's nap time. I was frustrated, but I let it slide. Then, a couple of days later, our sink started leaking. I reminded him of our conversation and asked him to handle it. He said he would, but days went by and nothing happened. The leak got worse, and I ended up calling a plumber myself. When the plumber came, he found mold under the sink from the prolonged leak. It was going to be a big, expensive job to fix. I was livid. Not only had my husband not taken care of the sink, but his inaction had led to a bigger problem. We had a huge argument about it. He said he forgot, but how do you forget something like that? It's not like the leak was silent. We could hear it every time we were in the kitchen. Remembering our past, I tried to be understanding. When we first moved in together after that snowy reunion, we had to deal with a lot of house issues. He always stepped up back then, but now it seemed like he was avoiding these tasks. I couldn't help but feel like the dynamic had shifted since we had our daughter, and he became a stay-at-home dad. In the midst of all this, I found out from a neighbor that there had been a string of burglaries in our area. I was already on edge from the house issues, and now I was worried about our safety. I asked my husband to call and get quotes for a security system. He promised he would. But guess what? He didn't. Instead, he spent his days playing video games and putting off the tasks he said he'd handle. I was at my wit's end. I couldn't understand why he was acting this way, especially after all we'd been through together. Our counseling sessions have been intense. We've dug up a lot of old feelings, like when I was hospitalized for my manic episode. He was my rock during that time, and I thought we could get through anything. But now, it felt like he was a different person. I remember how he broke up with me back then, saying I should see other people. I did date others, but it wasn't the same. When we got back together, it felt right. We had been through so much, and I thought our bond was unbreakable. But this week, I started to question everything. The man I fell in love with, who had been so supportive and caring, now seemed distant and irresponsible. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe we were falling apart. I tried to talk to him about it, but he just brushed me off. He said he was stressed and that I was overreacting. But I wasn't overreacting. Our home was falling into disrepair, and he wasn't doing anything about it. The final straw came when I got a call from the security company. They said someone had inquired about a system, but never followed up. I was furious. I had been patient and understanding, but I couldn't take it anymore. We had another huge fight. I told him that he needed to step up or things were going to change. I couldn't be the only one taking care of our home and our family. He needed to be a partner, not just someone who lived here. He didn't say much, just that he'd try harder. But I've heard that before. I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but I know I can't keep going like this. Something has to give. GF gets video of me cheating and accuses me, but I show her proof it wasn't me. Oh boy, she confesses she's been talking to my ex who manipulated her. Oh boy, we confront my ex, and she admits she's still in love with me and wants to break us up. So this last Friday, out of nowhere, my girlfriend started asking me these questions. Do you have something to tell me? Obviously, I thought she was joking because she does those types of jokes just to mess with me. Turns out she wasn't joking, and after a long time of getting her to tell me what was happening, she told me the title says it all. Someone, who I think is my ex, F22, sent my girlfriend a video of some random guy getting a BJ from her. They also told my girlfriend that she had something with me and felt bad that it happened, so decided to tell her by sending the video. Obviously, my girlfriend was mad and started flipping me off. I tried to tell her that it wasn't me, but apparently she recognizes my weenie from the video, so that's all the proof she needs. Just let me tell y'all, I'm not in that video. I've never been with someone else other than my girlfriend, and I would never think of being unfaithful to her. I just love her so much and wouldn't dare to do that to her because I know how much that would hurt. Also, we are not that intimate, not because we don't want to. She just has a lot of anxiety about it, which I don't really mind not doing anything intimacy. After all the back and forth of telling her it wasn't me and that it was my ex trying to get us to break up, she told me she needed some time to think things out and she wasn't feeling in the mood to talk with me. But she said that all the trust she had in me was gone, so she said goodnight, and that was it. On Saturday, I tried to send her a video so she could compare my weenie to the one shown in the video and see that they don't look the same. Also, not my face nor my voice appear in the video, but she doesn't want to see my weenie. I should have thought it was insensitive first. That's my bad, I was too impulsive. Then we went back and forth again, and it didn't end in anything. Today, Sunday, I went ahead and made a list of things that were enough proof that it wasn't me in the video. 1. Weenie size is different. 2. Pubic hair is different. Last year I had a kickboxing fight, so I had to shave to make weight because I'm very hairy. I have a lot of pubic hair and the guy in the video doesn't have that much. But I pointed out my fight and the shaving thing, just so she doesn't think I'm trying to make a quick excuse. Also, the fact that on that same night I had my fight, I went on a trip with my girlfriend's family and her. And every day after that trip, I walked her home after uni. We live 2 hours from uni, and we are there from 1 to 6, 7. Then I went to my house. I did that every day. Still live with my parents, by the way, so they wait for me to have dinner, and if I'm coming late, they call my girlfriend. We live in a pretty bad neighborhood, so I couldn't possibly make time to go see someone. 3. I train at uni every Saturday, and after that I go to my girlfriend's or head back home. I always send her my location just for safety reasons. 4. And on Sundays, I'm always at some family gathering or with my girlfriend's family having lunch. I thought it was pretty clear that I wasn't the one in the video after I explained everything to her, but she still thinks I cheated on her and doesn't trust me anymore. We've been through a lot together, but we were always pushing through the nonsense. So this thing happening kind of fricks me over a lot, because it didn't even end in bad terms with my ex. We just didn't talk anymore. And out of nowhere, she decided to frick up my relationship. I know it's her because I recognize the name in the pictures and video my girlfriend sent me. My girlfriend has told me that she would be with me even if I cheated on her. But I just don't want to do that to her. So we are in this state in the relationship where we don't talk at all and get into arguments. I decided to wait just so she can calm down and think things right. But I just feel so anxious that I've been playing games and exercising all day. I'm sorry if my post isn't legible. English is not my first language, but I decided to post it here just so she couldn't find it because she can't speak English. She didn't want anyone knowing about what happened and even made me delete some messages I sent to one of my friends who knows my ex because I couldn't find any of her accounts on social media. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. What? Y'all haven't been intimate and she doesn't want to see your weenie, but she features it in the video? Bro, you either have a really crazy girl and this story is hogwash. Comment 2. So you two aren't even intimate, as you put it, yet she swears black and blue that it's you, and she can recognize that. She doesn't sound worth the trouble, to be honest. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been 3 days since my last post, and boy, do I have an update for you. Remember how my girlfriend got a video that supposedly showed me being unfaithful? Well, things have taken a busy turn. First off, let me give you a bit of history. My ex, let's call her Sarah, was always the jealous type. We broke up because she couldn't handle me having close female friends. It was a peaceful breakup, or so I thought. We just stopped talking, and I moved on with my life. I never imagined she'd come back to haunt me like this. Back to the present, after my girlfriend, let's call her Emily, confronted me with the video, I was in shock. I spent the whole of Monday trying to prove my innocence. I even dug up old photos from the time of the kickboxing fight to show the difference in my body hair. But Emily was having none of it. On Tuesday, things got even crazier. I was at home, trying to distract myself with video games, when I got a text from Emily. She said we needed to talk and that she was coming over. My heart was racing as I waited for her. When she arrived, she was calmer than I expected. She sat down and told me she had something to confess. Turns out, Emily had been talking to Sarah behind my back. Sarah had convinced her that I was cheating and that she was doing Emily a favor by exposing me. But here's the twist. Emily had started to doubt the video's authenticity. She noticed that the guy in the video had a tattoo on his back, something I definitely don't have. Emily apologized for not trusting me and for not seeing the signs that Sarah was manipulating her. We were both relieved, but also angry at Sarah for trying to ruin our relationship. We decided to confront Sarah together. We found Sarah's social media accounts, which she had blocked me on, and Emily messaged her. Sarah agreed to meet us at a coffee shop on Wednesday. It was tense, to say the least. Sarah walked in, all confident, until she saw both of us sitting there. The confrontation was intense. Sarah tried to play innocent at first, but when we pointed out the tattoo and other discrepancies, she finally broke down. She admitted that she was still in love with me, and that she thought by breaking Emily and me up, she'd have a chance to get back with me. Emily was furious. She had trusted Sarah and even confided in her about her anxieties regarding intimacy. Sarah had used that against her, making her believe that I was seeking satisfaction elsewhere. Because Emily wasn't ready, I was disgusted by Sarah's actions. I told her that what she did was unforgivable and that she needed to stay out of our lives for good. Sarah left the coffee shop in tears, and Emily and I were left to pick up the pieces of our relationship. We spent the rest of the day talking things through. Emily felt guilty for doubting me, and I reassured her that we'd get through this together. We've been through tough times before, like when we both had to juggle part-time jobs and studies to make ends meet. We always supported each other, and this time was no different. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, but I'm just glad that Emily and I are on the same page again. We're taking things slow, rebuilding the trust that was almost shattered by my ex's lies. It's going to be a long road, but I'm hopeful. As for Sarah, I hope she finds help and moves on. I never wanted to hurt her, but I also can't allow her to hurt me or Emily. It's a tough situation, but I'm just focused on the future with Emily now. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.